What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about this guy behind me, Chad, in Scream 6. Talk about his character, much like I've done with the past characters over the last week or so. Talk about what I'm going to be expecting of him. Will he die? All those kind of things. And honestly, when I think of characters that I'm kind of most excited to see, Chad is very high. One thing I want to focus on is his importance to the movie. And what I mean by that is probably even like screen time. How much is he going to be in it? And one thing that's kind of made me think of this is his usage, right? In promotions. They're really running with him, Jenna, and Melissa. Those are like the main three. You got Hayden doing some, you got Courtney Cox, and I'm sure actually probably over this week, you're going to start to see more interviews, or maybe even early next week. Like, we'll probably see more of them out there, but it's odd when you think, and odd maybe in a good way, when you think of maybe the main three that they're using, it's him and then the two gals, the two final girls, which is pretty interesting of how much he's going to be in the film. So what we know of him so far, well, we really don't know too much, right? Kind of like we don't know about too many characters, but there's that thing with Tara that I originally was a little like weirded out by, where it's like, man, I just can't see them as a couple. I just can't do it. And based off of 5 even or whatever. But coming around to it, well, I also thought it was kind of cute. And even looking at it now, it's like, no, you know what? I think I'd like that. I think I'd like the idea that these two had a thing. And this is what I imagine the movie's going to do. These two had a thing. They hooked up, in between 5 and 6. They probably broke up. I think they both like each other as human beings, or Tara likes Chad as a human being. But I think Chad still is like in love. Like you got love. You love somebody versus that you're in love with somebody. In love being like a relationship. So I think Chad is in love with Tara. It's possible Tara just loves Chad. It's going to be interesting to see that kind of play out. One thing we heard very, very early about his character was that he would be the heart of this film. This came from Viewer Anon. And I always found that pretty also interesting, right? Because you had this guy who, I won't mince words. I've always kind of talked, bad about him when it came to Scream 5. I think he's a good actor. I think Chad as a character is fine. He just wasn't given pretty much anything to do. Well, he had that death kind of sequence, right? But he didn't do too much in Scream 5. It was more of an issue of lack of screen time than necessarily acting or writing or literally anything else. It was more of just he wasn't there all that much to be one of the 4 original now survivors, right? This new age group, being one of the 4, but having probably the least character build. Him not trusting Liv was kind of weird, and I never have really liked that, right? So he, I do believe, has been the weakest of those 4. So to hear that he's the heart of this movie, well, what does that mean, right? I feel like you could do, now Dermot Mulroney has kind of talked about, being a police officer or a detective, and, he's following the great David Arquette. So maybe like but I don't think he's like a Dewey in a way. I think if there's going to be somebody who's that protector role, the person who like genuinely loves the others, I think Chad is actually that character. I think he swaps in rather nicely. Now, what do you do with him at the end of the movie? We'll talk about that, but that's kind of what I see for him. He's big, he's strong, right? And he has that, I think, charisma, or he can have the charisma to genuinely watch out for these other people. So I really am excited to see that kind of element, even just from that short, again, clip that we saw. Well, we've seen a couple things of Chad. I'm thinking of, when Ghostface is coming in and Mindy says to run and Chad, is grabbing Tara's hand. I mean, I really like that scene, and it's only, I guess, one shot of it, but, where him and Tara go to escape, he does have that protector role kind of vibe to him. We've also seen him now at the ending multiple times. So originally we saw him basically like whipping, like throwing Ghostface and like going to punch him, right? So we've seen that happen. And then, over these 50 TV spots or however many, which is honestly, it seems like it's that many, we've seen a little bit more of him. It does look like he's part of the chase when they're going through the small little hallway thing. He's part of that. He's at the back of it though. And then of course there's the scene in one of the TV spots or whatever where Tara is screaming / crying and Sam is holding her back. Now, that could very well be one of 2 things, right? In fact, it probably is only one of 2 things. Number 1, it is Chad being killed, actually dead, killed. And so I want to talk about, if he's going to live. The other option is it's kind of like a Gale thing in 2. like almost exactly where she's seeing Chad die before her eyes, but he'll make it, just like Dewey did. Now, Chad has already experienced, him and Mindy have already done this thing one time where they've had those fake out deaths. Chad probably the most, right? Like Mindy stabbed in like the shoulder blade or wherever, and she's talking about like there's a lot of blood and she kind of passes out. It never really came across like she died, right? In 5, at the end of 5, never really came across like she died. For Chad, it definitely came across like he died. So he already has had that Dewey moment from Scream 1. He's had that in 5. So do you do it a second time? Now, it gets into a little bit of a sticky situation, right? Because, I will be flat out honest. I'm not a fan of multiple fake out deaths, okay? I would prefer, if you're going to do something like that to Chad again, you actually kill him, okay? With that being said, I understand that I also have to be fair to the entire franchise. If I'm saying, well, I don't necessarily like it here, I wouldn't like it if they did it twice. Well, they did it to Dewey twice, and then they kind of messed with Dewey multiple times, right? But specifically those first 2, they really got close. So, yes, I mean, honestly, again, looking back, watching those things, I don't think too much about it. I actually think the second death, as close as you're going to get to death, is very, very good. The music is fantastic, and it's a genuine, incredible moment from both of them. And then, when she sees them at the end, I didn't feel like betrayed or ripped off or anything. So, with that being said, maybe that happens here. Maybe if you literally do that again, you're seeing Chad get destroyed in front of Tara. You have that big emotional sequence where Chad's telling her to run or, whatever. That can be extremely powerful, and then you can still keep him around. And, at the end of the day, will I be a little upset about it? Maybe, but I do also have to understand, he really would just be following in Dewey's footsteps, and you'd be doing... Now, again, how much of 2 are you replicating? So, like, are you going to kill the Randy character in Mindy? Are you going to fake out death the Dewey character in Chad? If all of these things are the same, that's where I would probably say I'd be more upset than anything. If this movie was too much of a copycat of 2, that's where I would then start to have some problems. So I think Chad's potential like fake out death would be a part of copycatting too much, but it wouldn't be the whole thing. You'd have to, I think, do more to upset me. So bottom line, do I think Chad is going to die? I truly, and I'm dead serious, I go back and forth almost daily on what I think. I really think in a lot of ways it depends on Mindy, because I'm also not sold on the idea of both of them being gone, right? So if Mindy dies, and if Mindy dies before that ending thing with Chad, then I'd be more able to say if Chad does the death in front of Tara, it's a fake out. It's not actually going to be real. I really do think one of the twins has to go. I really believe that. And I don't know, the way that they're marketing it, right? Again, like that's the biggest thing. And using Mason as one of the 3. Jasmine's not doing it, which is kind of crazy. Now, again, like I know there's more interviews to come, and I'm sure they pair them up in 2s or 3s, right? And like they did last time, right? They had some of the OGs, Nev, Courtney, and David. They had them together in interviews, right? So like I know there'll be different combinations of them when they talk and all that stuff. But I'm literally just looking at it right now when you're having all of these different, small little promotional things on Twitter and stuff. It's Mason, right? It's Chad's, it's Chad's actor. It's not Jasmine/Mindy. So, like, why choose him? Why is he the one and not his sister? Well, is it because he's more integral to 6? That doesn't necessarily mean he lives or dies. Maybe he's just more integral to it than she is. Maybe she dies and he's going to continue on, right? So it's him, the 2 final girls, and then if you have Kirby and Gale or you don't, right? And that goes into 7. Well, that would make sense why you're pushing him, right? And having him as part of the group is he's going to go on to 7. I lean that way. I think it's more that, but I'm not 100% sold. So, right now I'll make the controversial prediction. I'll say he lives. Right now I'll say he lives. Next week, probably like Monday, or I've been teasing this for a while, maybe like next Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to do a final predictions video, actually a couple of them, talk about who dies, when I think they'll die, the order that I think they'll die. So I'll put it in ink next week. Right now I'm kind of like penciling it in, but you guys let me know in the comments, what do you think of Chad's character? I've said this before, but in case you guys have missed it, I do have a Discord server. I'm not really checking the comments because of all the killer spoilers that are out there. So if you want to talk in the Discord, spoiler free, we don't do spoilers there, at least not yet, join the Discord. Links in in the description, and I'll put it as a pinned comment as well. Can talk about Scream. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. Check out our other social media in the description as well, and I hope to see you all on the next one.